was methods of where do we get that? So this is what. So we were talking about these two methods. Now, will you be able to write down two differences between hybridization and genetic modification? Will you be able to write? Chalo, let us write. You are asked this type of differences also. Check out your notebook. Now, already you have written what is meant by hybridization, what is meant by genetic modification. Fatapat. Two differences. Let us write. Take down the next question. Write two differences between hybridization and genetic modification methods. Two differences between hybridization and genetic modification methods. Make a table. Make a table fast. Today, why were you late? Hey, why were you late today?
Actually, I was came late from school. That's
Write two differences between, what were the two methods we had studied? Write two differences between hybridization and genetic modification methods. Write two differences between hybridization and genetic modification methods. Number one. Two differences between hybridization and genetic modification methods. Number one, what is the first one? Table banao. Fatafat, speed up. What is the first point that we should write? What is the first point that we should write? Yes. Both the methods can give us improved variety of plants. But still there are a whole lot of different.
Hybridization are affected by essential water.
No. That was just an example I gave you. These are just examples.
hybridization is a process of improving the variety of food by the fusion of cells.
Fusion of cells.
Genetic modification method is the process of
alteration of the gene, alteration of the DNA. Understood what you have written also. Look, the first point, hybridization. Under that column you write. In this method, cells of two or more plants are fused. In this method, cells of two or more plants are fused. In this method, cells of two or more plants are fused to obtain an improved variety of plant. To obtain improved variety of plant. Other side, genetic modification will go. In this method, the DNA of the cells of an embryo, DNA of the cells of an embryo, embryo spelling check karo if you have a doubt. DNA of the cells of an embryo are altered, comma, and embryo is allowed to give rise to a new plant. And the embryo is allowed to give rise to a new plant of improved variety. New plant of improved variety. Second point, improved variety. Second point, hybridization में लिखो, hybridization में लिखो, stem, roots, leaves or buds are used for fusion. Stem, leaves, buds, roots are used for fusion. Genetic modification में लिखो
Fusion.
FUSION for fusion. Genetic modification में क्या लिखना है? Cells. Cells are used. Now you cannot talk about plant parts. You have to go deeper. Cells are used for, or cells are used in this method. Cells are used. Changes are done at the level of the cell. Okay. What next?
Example.
What next?
Example.
Examples are not a difference at all. The third point, let us write. I'll give you 3 points. Any of the two you will write. The first two are majorly important. Third difference, hybridization, comparatively easier process. Comparatively easier process. Genetic modification, complex process. Process is a complex one. Lengthier one. Complex process. Done.
So, may I go to work?
हाँ जाओ फटाफट हो गया 1 minute में. So we are done.
Can we write that and hybridization? No, biologists are required.
No, that is not a point to write. Now next is we talk about what are conditions necessary for the high yield. So already we said what are these are the two major methods that you study here. So what was the first heading that we were studying? Remember, I started this way. I said for improvement in crop production, what has to be done? First, we have to think of variety improvement. So you get questions in your paper. Name the two methods for improvement of variety of plants. क्या लिखना है answer? Name the two methods for improvement in variety. क्या लिखना है answer? Hybridization and genetic modification. आया समझ में? So this is what you are supposed to write. So we are done with the first part, where we are understanding that for variety improvement, for crop variety improvement, how can the variety be improved? Either you bring parts of two plants and fuse them together and allow them to grow, or you make modification in the cells and the DNA and then allow them to grow. Either of the two methods. So this we are done with. Improvement, crop variety improvement, we are done with. Now we talk about something more. Look at this part of your volume. Factors which are factors for which variety improvement is done majorly. Now we talk about that factors for which variety improvement is done. Meaning, वैसे तो I had given you examples. You are so sad that you can't walk also properly. What's wrong with you? So much of drama he can do. Just look at him. After the lecture, you're going to come and talk to me, huh? 5 minutes. No? Why no?
Why would I talk to you?
I want to talk to you, that's why. Why would I talk to you?
I thought you are telling you would come.
To your house?
To
You
talk to
would
me
come.
after.
Simple English I'm speaking. Can't you understand? Now concentrate. Now I said factors for which improvement of the variety is done. इससे क्या समझ में आ रहा है कि variety improvement किस लिए किया जाता है generally. So when I'm talking about, I give you just these examples to understand कि a particular plant is not able to resist the excess of water in the soil. Is it possible to make that point correct? Like say suppose you are not sitting properly. So your parent, I'm not saying anything. Giving you an example. So I said, when you are not sitting properly at home, your parents correct you, know that you have to sit the proper way. When you are not eating properly, table habits are not good. Your parents teach you at the correct time when you are not sitting to study. Of course, you don't listen to the parents, also not the teacher. That's a different story. But we are constantly correcting you. Your parents are constantly correcting you. So same way, is it possible that the corrections can be done at the level of the plants also? Yes. At the level of the animals? No. At the level of the animals, experiments are not possible. At the level of the animals, experiments are not possible. But yes, at the level of the plants, that can be done. So now that we are talking about what are some of the characteristics which they try to correct. Number one, higher yield. Higher yield मतलब production कम है. A particular type of a crop, very good. A type of a wheat, very good variety. But production per year कम है. So they will try to find out what is the reason that the production is less. Can we do hybridization with other variety ताकि इसका variety production बढ़ सके? So something like this. I talk about improved quality. Now this already I discussed about. Quality, improved quality. Any type of a crop, any type of a fruit, not qualitative. Now today when I go to buy, or when your parents go to buy any type of a fruit or a grain or a rice or a vegetable, do we only buy the name? Apple hai to any type of apple will pick up. Rice hai to any type of a rice will pick up. No, at basic knowledge that we have, that this type of rice is good in nutrition. This type of a dal is good in nutrition. This type of a fruit good in nutrition. That type of a vegetable good in nutrition. So we always check for the type of food substance good in nutrition, that only we prefer to buy. So that means whenever we are talking about any type of a crop, the breeder, the farmer, the breeder will also have to keep a check whether the nutrient level of that crop, fruit, cereal is good enough or not. Take this, very, very important. Biotic and abiotic resistance. Biotic and abiotic resistance. Resistance you already told. Huh?
Ma'am, first point, it is written to increase the productivity of the crop. But that is what the meaning is.
To increase the productivity of the crop per acre. Per acre is a unit of the land. Like if I say per square millimeter, per square kilometer, acre is even a bigger plot of land. Acre is a unit of measurement. Acre. So now that we talk about, take the third point, as I said, biotic and abiotic resistance. What is the meaning of biotic? Biotic means living factors, living organisms. I may talk about a plant. I already talked about this. A plant resistant to pest. Plant resistant to pest, meaning I talk about a cropland, and in that cropland, some type of fungal infection has happened. But the plants which were growing, the cereal, maybe the type of pulses which were grown in that land, hardly got affected. Fungal infection was there for 1 or 2 months in the this monsoon time. But yes, after that, the farmer had sprayed some insecticides and pesticides, etc., etc. But none of the plants generally got affected or died out. Then what am I going to say? Are these plants sensitive to pest or resistant? Sensitive or resistant? Resistant. Resistant ka matlab they remained unaffected. Sensitive ka matlab they got affected. Somebody is sneezing or coughing in front of you, but still for the next 3 days you did not have any influenza cough or fever. So you are resistant or sensitive? Resistant. Your body is so good immune. You are resistant to those microbes around you. But today somebody was sneezing, coughing in your class. By night or by tomorrow, you also start having fever, cough, cold, etc., etc. You are sensitive. Easily you get infection. So same like that. That is happening in plants also. Plants also may be easily affected by microbes and pests. So plant breeders would always like to correct that characteristic. Like your parents also must be giving you good food that develop your immunity. You should be resistant to infections. No, so that way the plants also. So now that I'm talking about Biotic resistance. What is the meaning of biotic resistance? When a plant is not affected much by pathogens and worms and fungi and bacteria, etc. Biotic resistance. What is the meaning of abiotic? Non-living factors. Abiotic. Something like temperature, water. I said no, water. Water is a abiotic factor. Water, temperature, sunlight, salt in the water, and also salt in the soil, I may say. So what are abiotic factors? I'll give you just 2 or 3 examples. Try to understand. I'm talking about a type of I'm talking about a type of a mango. Mangoes are basically grown in the months of February, March, April, May, where the soil is supposed to be comparatively dry. But by the month of May, June, we get to see the mango season is almost done. Growing is done. Now harvesting and coming to the market, that part is going on. No, growing is already in the month of January, February, March, April. But during these months, if there is unseasonal rains, did you ever experience rain in the month of January, December? Hota hai na kabhi kabhar. So even in the month of January, sometimes it pours heavily 1 or 2 days. In certain areas, in certain part of the country, bahut hota hai. So at that time, all these mango plants, they will die out. So say suppose I talk about certain regions. Now say suppose I talk about Ratnagiri. Ratnagiri is famous for mango plantation. But now if in the month of January, February, suddenly it rains for 2-3 days, I get to see that there are 2 varieties of mango that easily got affected and most of the plants started dying out. 2 days of rainfall, but in now 1 week time I get to see that so many plants are dying out. But there are another 6 varieties of mangoes which remain unaffected. Kuch nahi hua. So which is the better variety? Those 6 varieties or these 2 varieties? Those 6 which remain unaffected. Usko bolenge resistant to water. Resistant, abiotic. What is the meaning of abiotic? Resistant to any of these non-living factors, environmental factors like rainfall, moisture, snowfall sometimes in cold countries. I talk about the amount of the nutrient in the soil, water, temperature, all these. So that is what we are talking. Change in the maturity duration. What do you understand by the word maturity? What is the meaning of the word maturity? Simple. Simple English meaning of maturity means what? We grow. Say suppose even for human, I talk about after the birth, we are infant. After the birth, we are infant. But when we are when we are infant, if you remember for yourself also, when you were, by the time you were something around 2 years, 3 years, did your parents say that no, you have to be very mature enough at this age? Did your parents ever say that? Huh? 3 saal maybe? When you were roughly around 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, your parents must not have even used that word maturity. But now, did you ever hear using these words? Thank God, your parents are also using, no? Because I'm not the only one. So now when we are talking about, now that our children are in the age group of 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, we start using, you have to be mature according to your age. No? So now we start using this word maturity. So what is the meaning of the word maturity? And if a child is not matured by the time the child is 18 years, is it good enough? The child is not matured by the time the child is 18, 19, 20 years. Good enough? Not good enough. No, it's a pain. But if I talk about the child is very mature by the time 12, 13, 14 years. Very good, no? For that parent also, for that child also. Same for a plant also. If the plant takes a shorter period of time. मम्मी बोलती है मेच्योरिटी कि पापा बोलते हैं दोनों बोलते हैं तो मेच्योर हो जाओ सिंपल सॉल्यूशन सो नाउ दैट हाँ अरमान again you so feel so sad I can only read his face with his eyebrows. What happened? I want you to laugh, but laugh for a good reason. I want you to smile, but smile for a good reason. I want you to talk, but talk for a good reason. I don't want you to be sad in the class. I don't want any of my students to be sad in the class. Are you preparing for Bollywood?
What?
Are you preparing for Bollywood any ways? Hmm? So much of dramatic your behaviors are. Go and come back in a minute. Now, when we are talking about this, try to understand simple, the word maturity here also means right from the time a seed is in the soil. If this seed germinates and grows into a new plant and it takes almost about 1.5 years to grow, it's a loss for the farmer, no? This seed, which is in the soil, should take roughly around 6 to 8 months. So within a year, it should be mature. So it's good for the farmer. In one season, he can harvest those crops, fruits, grains, and he can sell them in the market. So same that way, even now that we talk about for us, there's a particular time by when we should be mature. Even for plants, there's a particular time by which they should mature. So as I said, if a plant is having 6 months of growth, by 6 to 8 months, the plant has already given fruits. And there's another plant which gives, now say suppose for coconut and all, that's obviously normal. This particular plant gives crops or fruit almost in a period of some 2 years. Coconut, if I talk about, gives fruits almost in a period of 2 years. But if I talk about certain type of crops like the rice and wheat, they give the crops and the seed almost in a period of 1 year. No, so now the breeder or the farmer would always like to grow crops which are having always a short duration of maturity. Next, we talk about wider adaptability. Look at this point. These 3 points are very important. Abiding, tick all these 3. Next, I said maturity, and now I'm talking about adaptability. What is the meaning of adaptation?
Adapt the environment.
Adapt, मतलब एक example बता सकते हो to adapt. You are in which school?
Getting used to.
Getting used to, or rather, try to make yourself comfortable in any situation you are.
Adapt new things.
Adapt new things. Get accustomed to new environment, new things. Say suppose, as I said, now today you have got this lot of friends. Tomorrow, if suddenly your parents put you in another classroom, maybe now take you to the Nerul branch or Sanpada branch, or etc., etc. Should you start living alone or should you start getting isolated? No, you should try to adapt in that new environment. So that is what the meaning is. Wherever we are, we should try to adapt. So same for a plant. Same for a plant. I talk about the environmental condition. Is it constant every time? The environmental condition, is it constant every time?
No.
No, the environmental conditions are never constant every time. So since the environmental conditions are changing, so also the plant should start adapting. Just read those 3 points. Just read them.
So the VC will
एक करने वाले
क्या हुआ?
बहुत ठंडे लग रहे हैं।
स्वेटर तो पहना है।
आगे सके बैठे हैं ना। आगे भी जल्दी आवाज़ नहीं आ रही है। स्वेटर या किधर भी जाएगा।
उसने कहा क्लास है क्या बोलेंगे
ये चुप के बुक की राय
चल मैंने शॉपर
ये करना की
Now, when we are talking about
वो इधर बैठे हैं इसलिए
तू आगे बैठ जा
भाई हम लोग इधर बैठ के बोल रहे थे।
so you sit here, no? Actually, it's hot.
5 मिनट बाद चलाना
अरे गर्मी हो रही है
5 मिनट बाद चला लेना
Otherwise, you can sit here. Huh? Now, that is about wider adaptability. So, we were talking about wider adaptability. Now, let us talk about the last one. Desirable, underline the word, agronomic characteristics. Agronomic characteristics. What is the meaning of agronomic? Agronomic from the word agriculture. No fighting on this now. Huh? I know you have put it on again. See that इस issue पे कोई क्लास में कोई भी टसल नहीं है.
वो हफ्तों से यही चल रहा है, आता है AC ऑन करता है, सबको पूछ लो.
I know. I'm also telling him to put it on. But if he's saying 5 minutes, तो 5 minutes रुक के भी कर सकते थे ना.
अभी क्या?
अच्छा ठीक है. No, इस पे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होनी चाहिए. Okay. और else Arman, if you're Aryan, if you're feeling really very cool, you may come here. ठीक है. सामने आके बैठ जाओ. So I said, underline that word agronomic and write above that. What is the meaning of agronomic? Agronomic, desirable, meaning these are agricultural characters. These are characters of the plants we are talking about. Characters of the plants. Agronomic from the word agriculture. Agricultural characteristics. Characteristics of plants. So these are characters of plants. Say suppose every particular plant has got certain characters which are good enough. If I talk about the grapes, if I talk about the grape plants, did we ever come across that the grape plants have got thick broad stem? No. So the grape plants having thinner stems and no, those spiraling stems in the form of those vines, that is normal. That's an agronomic character. That's a good characteristic for those type of plants. At the same time, if I talk about the mango plants which have started developing thinner stems and try to tendril, is that good enough? No, that's odd. That is odd. Rather, the mango should always have thick, broad stem and wide branches. And that way, just underline 3 agronomic characters which are mentioned there in your book also, and which are asked also questions on. Number 1, tallness and profuse. Profuse means many, too much. Tallness and profuse branching. For which type of a plant? Tallness and profuse branching for fodder crops. Fodder means pea, gram. Underline there and write. Pea, gram. Pea, gram. Remember when we were talking about, no, I think we haven't talked about that here. No, the other day I gave you also, no? What are leguminous plants I gave you? So leguminous plants, fodder plants and leguminous is the same thing. Pea, gram, these are all leguminous plants. Fodder crops, underline and write down, pea, gram. Dwarfness, underline. Dwarfness, you are asked short answers also on this. Dwarfness is an agronomic characteristic for what type of plants? Cereals. Cereals like moong, arhar, wheat, corn, all the cereals. So cereal plants should not be tall. Cereal plants should be short, should be dwarf. What is, and we are talking about that certain type of plants should be, again, having too much of profuse branching. Certain type of plants should have less number of flowers. Certain type of plants should have fibrous root system like the maize. So many other characteristics you can add also, like the maize and all. They should have enough number of fibrous roots. So like that. Next is we now look into crop production. Crop production. Now for production here, we'll also have to look into this table. Look at this table where we understand 2 words. Can you understand? Can you look into these 2 words? Underline. Take micronutrients and macronutrients. Now we are going to talk about nutrient management. How is nutrient management done? What is the meaning of nutrient management here? Here I am talking about that the soil has got so many nutrients, but we have to grow crops in a manner so that all the nutrients of the soil is used up. Otherwise, the nutrients of the soil is just a waste. What are macronutrients? What are micronutrients? Let us first of all learn these 2 definitions. What are macronutrients? Nutrients which are required in large amounts. What are micronutrients? Nutrients which are required in smaller amounts but still needed. If these nutrients are less, will that affect the plant or it will not? It will still affect the plant. And if these nutrients like the iron and the manganese and the zinc and the copper are not there in the soil where the plants have been growing, the plants may start showing stunted growth. Seed will not be formed at the right time. Then the stem may start showing certain type of infection. The leaves may start rolling and becoming yellow. All these defects may happen. Take the next question. What are macro and micronutrients? The volume is there, it says. You can see and write also the answer. Come on, right? What are macro and micronutrients? Right? 2 examples in each case. What are macro and micronutrients? Write 2 examples in each case. What are macro and micronutrients? Write 2 examples in each case. Write 2 examples in each case. Likho, what I told you? Macronutrients are the ones which are required in large quantities for the growth of a plant. No. Definition likho, example likho. I am telling you, you write on your own. Listen, it's a very simple thing. Try to write on your own. What are you supposed to write? Macronutrients are the nutrients which are required in large quantities for the growth of a plant. Micronutrients are the nutrients which are required in small quantities for the growth of the plant. Likho.
साइलेंस का पंखा चाहिए
वैसे तो आर्यन भी होने हैं वैसे
हाँ है ना नारायण
और एकदम जबड़ी भी एकदम होते हैं
फीवर है
इधर आओ.
ठंड लग रही है उससे क्यों ओवर एक्टिंग करता है
Huh?
ओवर एक्टिंग
All of you are enough good in drama.
इसकी तरह ठंडी ऐसे
चलती क्यों आ रहा है ऐसे ऐसे पोलर बियर जैसे
सबने अच्छे से निकालना
Neither you are less, nor he is less, nor that one is less. Each one of you equally mischievous. Chalo. Could you write all of you? Two examples in each case you are supposed to. Huh? एक ही point लिखना है. What are macronutrients? Always remember nutrients which are required in large quantity. Where's the notebook? Acha. He forgot only why he is coming in the front. अभी तुम लिखोगे और 5 मिनट में रुको तुम्हारे लिए. Macronutrient, micronutrient. क्या लिखा है एग्जाम्पल माइक्रोन्यूट्रिएंट? Example, दो example, any of the 2 examples. And when you talk about, remember the most common ones are iron, manganese, zinc, boron, copper. These are the most common. Fluorine basically in animals we need.
Ma'am, what is that? Beside copper.
Molybdenum. Molybdenum is, it's another type of a mineral. Even for human body also we need molybdenum.
Where it is used?
In the plant, in the formation of enzymes, various enzymes. Animals. Molybdenum in the animals is used for nerve functions. Molybdenum in the animal is also used for formation of the blood components.
Protection.
Molybdenum, no, not for protection function. These are basically used in the molybdenum. Molybdenum is present in variety of these leafy vegetables. Molybdenum to some extent is also present in the seafood also. But these are very, very trace amounts that we need. Chlorine, but in animals is needed in large amounts. Sulfur, manganese is also. Come to the next one. So from this part, you are supposed to understand macronutrient and micronutrient, 2 important parts. And now you underline this sentence. How many nutrients? Number of nutrients essential for a plant. A plant in total requires about 16 types of nutrients. Underline that statement that you have in your volume there. Underline that statement. Plants require a total of 16 nutrients. Now, these are the major ones, macro and micro we are talking about. Apart from that, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. So that is common, that you already know. So we have been talking about deficiency of nutrients. Now, if there is a deficiency of nutrients, then what? I already summarized some, that if there's a deficiency of nutrients, then the plant will show a stunted growth. If I talk about a plant, something like the mango, which can grow almost about 10-12 feet, no, the growth will be so less. Plant is growing less, meaning the fruit size also will be smaller, the nutrient, etc., etc. So what would happen to a plant if the nutrient is not adequate? If nutrient is not adequate, the plant's process of reproduction, growth of the plant will be disturbed. Growth. And next is susceptibility to disease. What is the meaning of susceptibility to disease? The plant easily gets affected by a variety of pathogens, fungi, bacteria. Remember, plants also get affected by bacteria, fungi, worms, and variety of pests. Now that we are trying to understand how to increase the productivity to increase the productivity and to make the soil nutrient. Now that is what we are talking about. How to make the soil nutrient. First that we understood right now. But how to make the soil nutrient? So we just now understood that the methods to make the soil nutrient was what? To ensure that adequate amount of macro and micronutrients are there. Ensure that adequate amount of macro and micronutrients are there. And what can be the other method? Other method to make the soil rich in nutrient is a lot of manure, and or else try to apply enough amount of fertilizers, or also think of green manure. Now let us try understanding all these methods. So this is what we studied just now, that ensure that the soil has adequate amount of the macro and the micronutrient. What is manure? What is manure that we are trying to understand? What is manure? Manure is the process of decomposing the animal waste, farm waste, etc., and convert them into some semi-solid mass. How can that be done? Generally, we are talking about certain methods like composting. Do you know what is composting? What is composting? How is composting done?
And by putting the animal waste at the last and putting some dry.
By putting the animal waste at one particular region of the land. Say suppose I am talking about the farmland. So ये जो बड़ा सा farmland है, in this land at one region here, at this corner, basically that is what is done. In this farmland, at certain corners of the land, what they will do? Dig some pit. एक well जैसे structure. So they are to prepare some well-like structure. They are to prepare a trench or a pit. And then what are they going to throw here every time? All the farm waste, the dead animal parts, the fallen fruit and leaves and etc. All put them there. And from time to time, add some soil also there. Time to time, put some soil. And in a period of some 8 to 9 months, 10 months time, what will happen? All these waste have undergone the process of decomposition, and that has resulted in the formation of manure. But I cannot wait for 8 months. I want it in 4 months or 5 months. What should I do? Add some earthworms. Add some earthworms in those pits. When I add some earthworms in those pits, the process of decomposition happens even more faster. And that is what is known as vermicomposting. But now, this manure, do I have to measure them 1 gram, 2 gram, 3 gram to apply on the soil or apply on the plant? Do I have to measure? No, I can just take a handful or any spatula, use anything. And then at any quantity I can put at the base of the plant. Now this is the plant that I have, the young plant that is growing. Now this is the young plant that is growing. I can apply them at any quantity. I can apply them a large quantity also. Is it going to harm the plant? No, it is not going to harm the plant at all. But I have applied the manure today. I have applied this manure today. I have applied the manure today. Can I expect a rapid growth of the plant in another 1 week time?
Yes.
Perhaps not. Maybe in some 2 weeks, 3 weeks time only the plant will start growing, because the manure that we are applying is in the form of some chunks. They take a lot of time to get dissolved in the soil, and then these roots, now they will take a lot of time to first of all get dissolved in the soil, and then these molecules to enter into the roots. It takes a whole lot of time, because the particles of the manure, they are not fine, they are coarse. So these particles getting dissolved in the soil water and then the roots absorbing them, it will take enough period of time. A minimum of 2 weeks, 3 weeks is very much necessary. So I apply the manure today. I cannot expect any massive growth to happen in a period of just 3-4 days, 1 week time. But had this been fertilizer, then probably yes. Because these fertilizers are measured, there's a factory made, is not so? And the particles are so fine. The particles are so fine. So the moment you put them, I talk about now another plant. This is another plant that I have, and I'm putting these fertilizers, all these fertilizers, and in just few hours they will start getting dissolved in the soil, and the plant roots absorbing them. So yes, in a period of 4-5 days, 1 week time, I can easily see the plants growing and flourishing. But no, not for manure. For manure, when I apply, I have to wait patiently for a period of 2-3 weeks. Then only I can see some growth happening. But what are the other differences again? I said, in this case, when I am applying the manure, it takes a longer time. The particles are coarse. It takes a longer time to get dissolved. Here, the time taken is much, much lesser. Here, when I talk about the manure, the particles, when I talk about the manure, will it have an adequate amount of sodium, potassium, and phosphorus? It is basically known as NPK. Okay, let me write this other way. Sodium, phosphorus, potassium, NPK. Now, NPK meaning sodium, phosphorus, potassium. These are the 3 prominent nutrients that a plant requires for its proper growth. But I made this manure in that land for the last 6 to 8 months. In this manure, if I talk about 1 kg of fertilizer and 1 kg of manure, in this 1 kg of manure, am I going to find adequate amount of NPK? हो सकता है कि right amount of NPK is there in my 1 kg of manure? No. But now in this 1 kg of fertilizer, because it is factory made. It is factory made. So exact correct proportion of NPK will be there. I talk about a medicine. I have got some throat pain. So what am I doing? I'm doing my tea gargling and etc. etc. I'm trying my home remedies. Will I get cured? It will take 7 days or 5 days. But I start taking the antibiotic, and right from today, only when I take, by tomorrow morning, I'm okay. Why like that? Because this medicine, which is factory made, has got the right proportion of certain chemicals which can bring about the infection cure very fast. Same that way. When we have made this manure, it is manually done. And since it is manually done, the proportion of the sodium and the potassium and the phosphorus and the calcium, did we judge? Did we measure? We did not. So now that I'm putting this amount of the manure, it will roughly have a small amount of sodium, small amount of phosphorus, etc. But now this is fertilizer, which is machine made and factory made. They will have the right proportion of sodium and phosphorus and potassium. So that's the reason when we apply them, the growth of the plant is very fast, and that was in a very short period of time. What else? But now these are all the good parts. But now I'm saying that if it is fertilizer, I am supposed to add 1 cup only for the pea plants and 2 cups for the mango plants. But by mistake, what I did, I applied 2 cups for the pea plants. Will my pea flourish?
No.
Rather, it will die. But the farmer told me that for the manure you have to apply only 2 cups for pea plants, but by mistake I applied 3 cups for the pea plants. Manure. Is my plant dying out?
No.
Nothing will happen. So what you understand from this? If it is fertilizer, you have to apply the right amount. Otherwise the plants will die too much if it is. And what about the manure? Any quantity, not a problem at all. You can apply any quantity. Even if it is applied in excess, the plant is not harmed at all. But this manure that I'm applying in the entire soil, what's happening? The soil is also becoming porous. The soil is becoming porous because it has got so many microbes also in it. When I prepared the manure, there are so many microbes, and all these microbes are here. The soil is becoming porous. When I'm irrigating, the soil water is not on the upper layers, but the water is going deeper down, so the soil remains moist for a longer period of time. Very much helpful for the growth of the plant. But if I talk about the fertilizer, fertilizer is causing any benefit to the soil?
Yes.
How?
By providing the
No, it is providing temporary nourishment to the plant, but is it causing any good points, or is it bringing about any good structural feature to the soil? No, rather it is killing all the microbes which is there in the soil. When I apply, keep on applying fertilizer this season also, next season also, next season also, the plot of land that I had, all the microbes are getting killed, and this land after 5 years I'll not be able to grow anything. This land has become barren. So which are the points of differences now that we learn? What are the points of difference that we learn? If it is a manure, you have to apply, you can apply at any specific quantity. If it is manure, you have to apply at the right quantity. If it is manure, they will not have the exact amount of NPK. But if it is the fertilizer, they will have the right amount of NPK. If it is manure, the process, the period of growth from the time of application is longer. If it is fertilizer, the process of growth from the time of application is shorter. But if it is manure, the soil starts getting nourished and better every season, every year, because we are applying microbes also along with it, and the soil is becoming porous. The water holding capacity of the soil is increasing. But if it is fertilizer, the soil is getting degraded year by year, season by season, and after some 5-10 years, this soil is becoming barren. Homework remains, you will read this part. I already touched all the points. Read this part, manure and fertilizer. I'll give you questions to write the next day. All of you bring your volume next time.
नहीं हम लोग का ये तो फाइन वही कर सकते हैं
Hello.
हम लोग इस मैटर रेफरेंस प्योर और मैटर ट्रांसफॉर्मेटिंग भी कर सकते हैं
स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ एटम वो चौथा चैप्टर करना
चौथा चैप्टर
Atoms
and molecules
The structure of atom.
yeah atoms and molecules
Structure of atom.
जो तेरा
easier छोड़ दे
वो चलेगा
अरे बाबा
Hello.